Hello guys, I'm Joe, and in this video I will go over the basic stuff you need to know about bosses and ads in Operation Mechagon, because in 2 days 8.3 will be live and Operation Mechagon will be split in 2 wings just like Karazhan in Legion. And it will also have heroic difficulty, and most importantly why I'm doing this basic guide is because Mechagon will also have Mythic Plus difficulty. The first wing is called Junkyard and the second wing is called Workshop. And before we start the video, you can check me on Twitch where I stream almost every day, and if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos, and share your opinions in the comments down below. In the Junkyard wing we will be facing King Gobamag, Gunker, Trixie and Nano. The basic stuff you need to know about King Gobamag are few. When you start the boss fight, the first ability he will use is Rumble, which will spawn swirlies on the ground, which you need to avoid or else you will get stunned. And while the ability persists, the whole group will also take damage and little ads will spawn which cannot be aggroed. The next important ability, and the one that hurts the most, is Charge Smash. So when the boss starts to cast this ability, the whole group needs to be stacked and soak it. And when you do soak the ability, the Charge Smash, you become electrified, and what you need to do is run towards one of the 4 pillars or the robot, and by doing so you charge the pillars and the robot. And the reason why you're doing this is because they will help you clear the ads so that you won't take damage. Even if the fight tempts you to do AoE damage, you should really focus on single target. And that's about it for this boss. The next boss is called Gunker, and in order to activate this boss you need to kill 3 toxic monstrosities that will free up 3 squirt bots that have one mechanic, and that is to clean the green goo on the ground that the boss spews, and if you get hit by the goo you are trapped and your party members have to free you up. So when you're fighting this boss you are not supposed to stand too close to the boss since it will trap you, and there will be swirly circles during the fight that you need to avoid and hug one of the 3 squirt bots and be in the safe circle. But the problem is that the robots can also be trapped themselves and you have to free them up, and this becomes even more difficult when the boss casts the 2 main abilities that you have to avoid, and one of them is only avoidable by hugging the robot, and that's why the robots needs to be operational all the time. The first ability is Coalesce, which will pull you towards the boss, and all the goo on the ground will also be pulled. If you get pulled too close to the boss you get trapped. The other one is called Toxic Wave, which will spew out a wave with the green goo that cannot be avoided, and the only way to avoid it is being in the safe circle. So I would recommend not being grouped up everybody on the same squirt bot, so the ranged players can actually hug the outer squirt bots and the melee can actually hug the inner one. And that is about it for this boss. The third boss, or should I say bosses, are Trixie and Nano. One of the abilities you need to interrupt whenever you can is Taze, and Trixie is the one casting it. And also Taze leaves a debuff on you so that you take more damage of the next one. So Nano will roll out at the start of the fight and you'll have to avoid him, or else he will knock you back and deal significant damage to you and everybody else that doesn't move out. Then he will make a smoke cloud that deals damage if you enter it, and while in the smoke cloud you can't use your damaging abilities and you can't be targeted. So this smoke cloud plays crucial role with the Mega Taze ability that Trixie casts, and if you're hit by the Mega Taze you will be one shot, but it can be avoided if you stand in the smoke cloud. But do not stand in it too long because it will slowly kill you. When Nano leaves his Mechanocycle, there are 2 abilities you need to avoid. Those abilities are Roadkill and Bolt Buster. Roadkill targets a player and jumps to him like King Rastican, so you need to move out, and Bolt Buster is a frontal cone ability you need to dodge. And last but not least, both of the bosses need to die at the same time or they will empower themselves and probably wipe your group. The next boss is HK8, and when you start this encounter you first need to kill mini boss Tank Buster that has attack that debuffs the tank and it stacks, so it's better to kill it faster, but you're not supposed to use your DPS cooldowns or use heroism by any means. Buster also debuffs a player with fulminating zap that healer needs to dispel, and HK8 will occasionally fire Canyon that you need to avoid, and it will also spawn 3 little ads that can be killed but they can deal damage if you stand next to them, and after a certain amount of time they will self-destruct and leave electrified field on the ground that deals damage and slows you down. The ads cannot be killed but they can be CC'd, and the best CC is Mass Root, and after you kill the mini boss phase 2 starts, and here you have to deplete the energy of one of the two pillars. One is on the left side and the other one is on the right side. There are some obstacles you need to overcome while doing so. One is electrified field on the ground that stuns you, and the other one is propelling electricity fence, and there are also little robots with a field around them, so if you touch them you get teleported back. So while avoiding them you need to reach the pillar and click it to deplete its energy. So there are also two bigger ads that patrol around it and you have to avoid them as well. You can also use bubble here and cheese the mechanics to reach the pillar. So when you deplete the energy you need to rush towards the boss, use heroism, pop cooldowns and nuke the boss. If you do not succeed to kill it in one go, you need to repeat phase 1 again, and this time you deplete the energy on the second pillar on the other side. But there is a time limit in depleting the energy bars, so you have to be quick about it. And that is about it for this boss, and this also concludes the Junkyard Wing. The second wing, or the workshop, has 4 other encounters, and the first one is Tussle Tongues. Here you have 2 bosses, the Platinum Pummeler and No Mercy. So the DPS should focus No Mercy first and kill it off while the tank drags the Pummeler and places him under the hammers that are placed around the room, so that when the hammer hits the Pummeler it destroys the armor that reduces the damage it takes. And across the room there will be gears flying around, so you have to avoid them, and it makes the fight a lot more annoying. When you start the fight, No Mercy will charge at the first player that gets aggro, so you should avoid it, and if possible face it to the closest wall and not across the room, so that you don't have to run a lot more. The ability that hurts the most is Vent Jets, which deals damage if you stand in the front of the boss or to the sides, so you need to stand behind it to deal DPS. And when you kill No Mercy, the Platinum Pummeler is easy to deal with, since the only ability you need to avoid is Whirling Edge, which is an AoE ability that deals damage in 8 yards radius, and when you kill the 2 bosses you get thrown out like a pile of trash. The next boss is a dog that really deserves the sign Beware of Dog, and his name is Cujo. When you start this fight, a box will land on the ground that plays an important part in the fight that will save you from a devastating channeled ability that Cujo has. The box will be dropped on the furthest player or a ranged player, so you can control where it lands, and when Venting Flame starts channeling you need to run and hide behind the box to LOS it, or else you will be killed. Tank gets a debuff that needs to be dispelled, and when it's dispelled all party members take damage. The other ability that can make this easy fight a guaranteed wipe is Explosive Leap, and when this happens you need to be spread, because Cujo will target 3 players and leap to them and do damage in an explosive manner. So the part that makes this ability devastating is if you stand near a box while it jumps to you, you ignite the box, and therefore when Venting Flame happens you won't be able to hide behind it. So when Explosive Leap happens, just don't stand near the box and you're golden. The third encounter is Head Mechanist Sparkflux, and this fight can be really scary, and the amount of damage you can receive is huge, so if you do not simply avoid stuff. First, it will spawn a turret that will do damage to party members, so you need to kill it ASAP. When you kill it, it will spew out oil upon death that will ignite when hidden flames appear and do damage if you stand in them. Hidden Flame is 3 propelling lasers that deal a lot of damage, and combined with the oil spewed out of the turret it can easily overwhelm you. So that's why you need to kill the turret as fast as possible, because if you don't kill it before the lasers come out you will need to go through the lasers, and that can easily be one shot if you're already low on HP. The other ability that makes the fight more annoying are the flying blades around the room, and the boss itself has only one ability. He lobs a pulse grenade at a target's location that explodes, and if you get hit by the explosion you get disoriented for 9 seconds. I think this fight will be one of the hardest, only because of the amount of damage you will take. The last encounter is the King himself, and this is a 2-phase fight with some mechanics that persist in both phases, like plasma orbs that bounce you off if you go near them and deal damage, and throughout the fight the boss will recalibrate them from one position to another, and when that happens you have to move out of their trajectory and place of landing. He will also do a pulse blast to the tank, which will require a lot of single target healing, and periodically he will Giga Zap a player, deal a lot of damage in line towards him, so others are not supposed to stand in the line, because when you are hit with Giga Zap it leaves a debuff that increases the damage from your next Giga Zap. And if you get hit when you're not targeted, what can happen is you can get targeted after, with Giga Zap, and that Giga Zap you cannot avoid, so it can easily be one shot, but I think you can also Shadow Melt or Feign Death this mechanic. King Mechagon will also take off in the air and deal AoE damage to all party members, so the healer needs to be prepared for AoE healing and you should not stand near him while the ability persists. Phase 2 will also have Giga Zap with a large line of where the ability will land, accompanied with Plasma Orbs and one more ability that makes this phase more annoying. And that ability is Magneto Arm, which pulls all players towards it and deals damage, but the problem is you can easily hit Plasma Orbs while being dragged and take a lot more additional damage and die. And bear in mind that the last encounter is on a platform and that you can fall off of it, for example if a Plasma Orb hits you. So this is it for the bosses, and now I will explain some of the mobs and the important abilities they have. Regarding trash mobs in Operation Mechagon, there will be small ads that cannot be aggroed but can still be a problem if there are certain FXs in Mythic Plus. And the more important ones are the Scrapbone Grinders, which have ability Enrage that you need to interrupt, which will empower the ad, and it can be purged or suited as a druid and a hunter. Other mob is Scrapbone Billy, that besides Enrage it has Shockwave ability that is a cone ability that you need to dodge or it can one-shot you. Scrapbone Shamans have interruptible ability called Grasping Hex, which is AoE root, which can be very dangerous combined with Scrapbone Billys that have Shockwave. Malfunctioning Scrapbot has spinning ability Gyroscrap that you need to avoid. Toxic Monstrosities are the big ad you need to kill in order to activate Gunker. They have AoE ability that puts a debuff on you, which can be out-healed or cleansed, so you can notice I'm not moving away, I just wait to get the debuff and cleanse it away since it's not doing the damage instantly. The ability actually sucks you inside the ad and also sucks your health. Slime Elementals have a Slime Ball that is a single target nuke that deals damage and is recommended to interrupt. Other abilities the ad has is Slime Wave that you need to dodge or interrupt with a hard CC like stuns. Toxic Lurker has Suffocating Smog, which if not interrupted it will incapacitate the player. No Meeting Droplet has Acid Splash, you need to hard CC or it will splash and spawn more ads. Heavy Scrapbot has 3 abilities. One is Exhaust, which creates a smoke cloud that deals damage and makes your auto attacks to miss. Gyroscrap, which is AoE ability that you have to avoid. And there is Repair Protocol that if not interrupted will heal the mob to full health. Piston Head Scrapper has cone attack called Sledgehammer, so you should not stand in front of them. Piston Head Blaster cannot be aggroed and targets a random person, so I recommend focusing them first, and they also throw grenades. Piston Head Mechanic has 2 interruptible abilities. One of them is Overclock, which increases the haste of the mob. It casts by 100%. And the other ability is called Repair, which heals the mob. Weaponized Crawler has a cone ability called Scrap Canyon, which targets a player and the targeted player should face it away from the group, and Shock Coil, which deals AoE damage to the players nearby. Scrap Hounds have Bork ability that if it hits you it lowers your haste and movement speed by 50%, and this debuff stacks. Mechagon Cavalry has ability like the last boss in Motherlode called Rapid Fire. It is a channeled ability that you need to dodge. I wasn't able to test, but I think Ring of Peace will actually interrupt it. And there is also a charge ability that targets a ranged player and it leaps to the target area, so you need to dodge. Mechagon Renormalizer has 2 interruptible abilities. One is called Enlarge, which buffs the mob, increasing its damage, and the other one is called Shrink, which debuffs a player, but it can be cleansed by a healer. Anodized Coil Bearer has a channeling ability that is interruptible called Charge Coil. If it's not interrupted, it deals periodical damage to everybody. Bomb Tonk has only one ability, which is important to interrupt, and it's called Detonate, which makes the mob explode and deal huge damage to everyone. And Rocket Tonk that has Rocket Barrage that you need to hard CC. Waste Processing Unit has a channeled ability called Process Waste that is easily avoidable, and CC like Ring of Peace will work on them, but the other ability is the one that you should worry about, and that is the Mega Drill, which is AoE damage that on fortified weeks can be a one-shot. Leaving Waste will probably wipe a lot of Mythic Plus groups if they're not careful, because upon death they explode, dealing tons of damage to the whole group. Mechagon Tinkerer has 2 abilities. One of them is called Giga Wallop, which is a interruptible single target damaging ability that targets a random player, and the other one is Anti-Personal Squirrel that has to be hard CC'd, which drops a squirrel obviously. that detonates after a few seconds. Defense bots have one ability that will be devastating on fortified weaks, especially if multiple casts go off at the same time. It's called Short Out, which can be interrupted with Ring of Peace type of abilities. Not sure about Grip, didn't have the chance to test it out, but when it goes off, it deals massive AoE damage to the whole group. Blastatron is a mini-boss with two major abilities. Sonic Pulse is a cone ability that if it hits you, you're silenced for 8 seconds, and the other one is Capacitator Discharge, which electrifies 3/4 of the field, and if you're standing in it, you'll get silenced for 4 seconds. One of the useful mobs are the Workshop Defender, which drops a shield, and everybody that is standing inside the shield takes 75% reduced damage taken. So this is very useful when the defense bots channel short outs. You should stand in the shield and the tanks should tank the mobs outside the shield. Mechagon mechanics have interruptible ability Tune-Up, which heals the other mobs and needs to be interrupted. Spider tanks have only Sonic Pulse, which silences you for 4 seconds, and it's a cone ability, so you should dodge it. So that's about it about the mobs in Operation Mechagon, but there are 3 more useful bots that need to be mentioned, and that will majorly influence the route you will plan when doing Operation Mechagon in Mythic Plus keys, but these are only for Junkyard Wing. There are 3 bots that are interactable, clickable, that provide you with buffs. Grease bot gives you the buff called Greased, which gives you 10% movement speed and 5% haste. Wielding bot gives you Reinforced, which is increased max health and healing received by 10%. And the third one is called Shock bot, that gives you the buff Conductive, that inflicts nature damage to enemies, and this buff is insanely good and provides a lot of damage. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful, and happy looting.